everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Jayson.
And we are father
and son.
Today we're going to do something totally different. Jayson, what are we chatting about today, sir?
We're going to be doing top 10 video games.
Of all time. I don't know if yours the same way I did, Jayson. Obviously, favorite video games is really difficult because there's obviously lots of things that you and I have both played, lots of things that you could pick from. It's hard to really narrow it down. Initially, I thought about doing it by category, where we would each pick like a platformer, a driving game, a fighter, et cetera, et cetera. And ultimately, I couldn't think of enough categories of things that I was really into. Like there'd be, a couple where I'd have to sort of cheat because I'm just not big enough into a genre. So, like, it's a little bit disingenuous maybe for, like, me to pick an RPG or for me to pick a sports game. Like, I could do it. There's, like, one or two of each of those that I guess I like a lot and I could pick, and I've got some runners-up in those categories, but it wouldn't actually be representative of my real, like, favorite 10 games. So the way I did mine, Jayson, is I picked the 10 games that I go back to the most.
Yeah, and I actually did too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's just, they're the ones that I play, like, all the time.
Yeah.
Basically.
So mine are going to be really obvious for anybody who knows me very well. There aren't going to be a lot of surprises on my list.
And I'm your son, so I know a lot.
But it'll be fun to see what Jayson picked, and I think Jayson's going to call more of mine than I'll be able to call of his, probably. Also, keep in mind that Jayson is 10, so things are more fluid with you, wouldn't you say? Like, the list that you put in today is probably going to be even drastically different from the one that you might do a year from now. Mm-hmm. Not so much with me. I'm pretty solidified in my gaming interests, and I should say I'm not a hardcore gamer by any stretch. I'm certainly more of I don't want to say casual. Like, the stuff I'm into, I'm very into, but I'm much more of a retro gamer than I am a modern gamer. So you're not going to see a lot of stuff on my list from even the last 10 years. A lot of my stuff is a lot more, classic, stuff that I personally grew up with, and, I'm getting older, and so, like, there are some modern games that I like a lot, but not a ton that that I go back to a lot that would actually make this list.
Yeah.
Not to give too much away, but would you say that a lot of yours is retro?
Yeah,
okay.
I only have one on my actual list that is modern.
Oh, really?
That is post, GameCube.
Well, I will say that is true of mine as well, and that's not going to be too telling, I don't think, because you and I wrote our guesses ahead of time, so we have to go with whatever is written down already. We can't change our responses, after the fact. So the way we're going to do this is a little different, and I've never done this before. This will be kind of fun. So instead of a ranked list, where we're going to go from 10 to 1, Jayson and I are each going to guess at each other's list and see if what we thought might show up there ends up showing up there. And if it does, that's the game we'll talk about. And if it doesn't, we'll talk about a game that really is there. And so each of us, when it's our turn, we'll just guess at the other person, and then they'll tell us if they're right. We're also going to do some runners-up at the very end. But I don't want to do that at the front, because that's probably going to give some of those away. Because I imagine with each of us, there'll be things that we thought might make the list that actually was just runner-up.
Yeah.
Well, how do you want to start, Jayson? Do you want to guess at me, or should I guess at you?
I guess I'll guess at you. So if the person doesn't get the prediction, you would just do, like, your number, like, 10 or something?
Or just, anything on the list that you want to. Let's not do this in any kind of ranked order. I know you did rank yours. I ended up not, because I didn't get to ranking it before we came up with this idea.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So feel free to do it that way, but mine will be totally random. I mean, I might save certain ones for the end if you don't guess them, just because they're kind of bigger deals, but I imagine you'll call all my big deals. Like, my top 3 or 5, you'll get...
Or 5.
Right away.
Right away.
I would think. Let me ask you this question, too, before we get started.
Okay.
You know me, I love my preambles. Do you expect us to have very much crossover?
Maybe. Yeah, probably.
Like, is there anything on your list that you think will also be on my list?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
There are a couple that I think that, I actually predicted that are on my list that I think would also be on your list.
Okay, cool. Well, when we get to something on your list, tell us what it is, and just tell us briefly why you picked it.
Okay.
Just talk a little bit about the game. Don't have to do like a full-on review, but we'll just talk a little bit about the games. All right, are you ready? All right, here we go. The first father and son that's not a straight-up review.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about doing some discussion topics and lists like this, so glad we're finally getting to one. Jayson, would you like to guess at me first?
Yes.
Okay. Go right ahead.
I know that on your list,
You just know.
are going to have Virtua Fighter 2.
Well, I do, in fact, have Virtua Fighter 2, and specifically 2.
Yes. I know that you would have to.
Did you waver on that at all, where you're like, maybe he picked Mega Mix, maybe he picked one, like...
I thought you might have picked, like, 2 and Remix, maybe. Mm-hmm. But I knew that, like, 2...
Remix or Mega Mix?
Remix.
You know, I like what they did with Remix. I'm so nostalgic for the original that I would never pick Remix over it. And I think that on the Saturn, which is the only way I've played Remix, because that's actually an arcade game, but I've never played it arcade. It's a little stiff on the Saturn compared to Virtua Fighter 2. But yeah, Virtua Fighter 2 is my favorite fighting game of all time. Jayson likes it a lot too. He and I have played it a ton. I think at this point, I'd say that you're close to as much of a Virtua Fighter fan as I am. Maybe, or at least you're somewhere in the ballpark. I've grown Jayson up on that franchise. We play it quite a bit. It's frustrating that it's become almost obscure, at least with folks that didn't grow up with it. Like a lot of people just don't even know what Virtua Fighter is anymore, and it was a big deal in the 90s.
Yeah.
It was the first 3D fighter. It's the only, as far as I'm aware, video game cabinet that is in the Smithsonian, which it's there because it has that claim to fame. It has that historical relevance of being the first 3D fighter. It's sort of like Mario 64 in that it's amazing in that it's pioneering for its genre, that it's as good as it is and that it holds up as well as it does.
Yeah.
Mario 64, one of, if not the first, 3D platformer, and it's still very playable. That's amazing, and Virtua Fighter has that as well. Obviously, I'm talking about the sequel. That's what I put on my list, but just Virtua Fighter, the original. 2 took it to a whole other level. It like very soon after that first game, it already looks a lot less polygonal. The graphics were hugely upgraded. The
Lion is the best character ever.
The 2 new characters are good additions. Shun is a strange pick because he's a drunken boxer, but like it gives us yet another totally different fighting style. If you're not familiar with Virtua Fighter, besides being the first 3D fighting game, the other thing that it really had going for it is that it was the first game that attempted to be as realistic as it does. So it's not about like shurikens and throwing fireballs and that kind of thing.
It is about jumping like you're on the moon, but...
Initially, yeah. And that's the one kind of unrealistic thing it has, besides the fact that Kaji's mother's a cyborg. But besides all of that, it's another, like, we're all in a fighting tournament, and different characters have different stakes and different reasons for being there. Kind of like Mortal Kombat, but in a more, down-to-earth, kind of grounded sort of way. And each character has their own distinct fighting style. With a couple notable exceptions, because you have a father-daughter duo. Well, I say duo, they don't get along, but with Pai and Lao, and so their fighting styles are similar, but they have somewhat different movesets. The same is true also of Sarah and Jackie, so they have somewhat similar movesets, but they are different characters with a little switching up the style a little bit. But besides that, the characters all have drastically different fighting styles that you get to kind of mix and match. So you've got karate, and you've got wrestling, and all these different kinds of fighting styles. My favorite character is Sarah, and she's one of my favorite video game characters in general. I've just always really liked her look, and I like her fighting style. My favorite move in the entire game is the backflip kick that she does. Jayson will tell you it's maddening. I use it all the time. It drives him crazy.
Yeah.
Virtua Fighter 2 has the best soundtrack of the Virtua Fighter games, in my mind. There's some really nice stuff in 4 and 5 too, but obviously I like 1, but I think Virtua Fighter 2 has just the best, most distinct sound. and it's the fighting game franchise that I grew up with, and that I'm best at. To be frank, like a lot of it just comes down to that's the one that I know really well and I can play. You know what I mean? And so I go back to it all the time. But I love the feel of Virtua Fighter. I love how fast the matches are. Virtua Fighter is a game that you can sit down and play 3, 4, 5 matches in less than 5 minutes. And so if you have like no time to play but you feel like playing, it's a good thing to throw in. And obviously a lot of fighting games are kind of like that. Like Street Fighter and games like that are quick. Virtua Fighter is really quick. But
Yeah.
and also I should say part of my nostalgia for that game is that at the time, again, the 3D thing was a big deal. It was called Virtua Fighter because the idea of virtual reality was kind of all the rage right then, and people wanted to imagine that it was real, that it was like actually happening. And so it feels really quaint, especially going back to the first one now. If you didn't grow up with that stuff and you missed that whole era where you're just used to 3D games now and you're used to games looking more realistic. But it really captured the imagination because you had been imagining that this would happen, and then this is what it ended up looking like. Okay, Jayson, I'm gonna guess at yours, man.
Okay.
Do you have anything else you want to say about Virtua Fighter?
No.
You like Lion.
Yeah, I like Lion. I like Pie.
I also like Pie, but
And
that's a
my
different
favorite thing
conversation.
to do is the jump and then kick, because I get you every time because it's the first move I always make.
That's true. I should start paying more attention to that. Jayson, the first thing on my list that I'm going to assume is on yours. And so we each wrote 10. There are a couple on here that I probably didn't nail, but I was having a hard time you being totally sure. So a couple of these things I bet are not on your list, but I'm gonna say them anyway because they could have made it there. But I'm gonna open with Game & Watch.
Game & Watch? Oh. No.
I'm
That
surprised.
is not on my list.
Because you talk about Game & Watch all the time.
Yeah.
And Game & Watch is a series of handhelds before it's a game. I wouldn't have known exactly which one you would have picked, but I thought a Game & Watch would likely be there.
No, it's not. I actually didn't even think to like, and
But you talk about it all the time.
yeah, and like I play like the Game Boy, Game & Watch Gallery games all the time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You
Yeah.
go back to that a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah. Why? Can I ask you real quick? I know that's not on your list, so we shouldn't talk too much about it. But why do you like those so much?
Well, I really like old technology, and it's the first thing Nintendo made in the U.S. It is the second thing. It was the first handheld in the U.S. I think, but anyway, and it was one of them, and it was the second thing that Nintendo made overall.
Okay.
So, the first thing they made was color TV game.
So, like, I know you're interested in it for the sake of history, but you seem to also just enjoy playing them. Like, is it just the simplicity of it? Is it just imagining somebody else's childhood? Like,
yeah. It gets boring after like 15 minutes, half an hour. But yeah.
but you like old handhelds. You like Atari stuff. Okay, well, why don't you go ahead and throw out one? And it just occurred to me that you could end up mentioning a game that is on my list, in which case I would just tell you that, and the next time you would also just pick one, right? So try to pick something that you imagine I probably just would not have thought of.
Okay.
If you can.
Okay. So I put Adventure on my list from Atari.
That's on my list.
Really?
Yep. No, I knew that was going to go on there. Yep.
I really thought you wouldn't pick that.
All right, so we each got one, but you're 1 for 1 and I'm 1 for 2 right now.
Wow.
Yeah, I figured that was going to be on your list.
Oh my god.
So yeah, that's your favorite. Well, I know it's your favorite Atari game, and I know you like to go back to a lot of old games, so I figured you would probably pick like a token Atari game. So why Adventure? What do you like about that so much?
So, it's like this mazy game. It's an Atari game I can actually play because I know what's actually going on. It's one of the few Atari games that are actually good. It's just, you're on an adventure, you get a bunch of keys, you get these swords to attack bad guys, and you go through this maze, and you get this color thing that lights up the whole screen, and then you go back, and you get this magnet, and then you get this key and you get back and then the game's done. And it's just really cool.
What are your obstacles? What is trying to stop you?
A guy and sometimes the maze. The maze part is kind of hard.
Is it?
One time I memorized it, but I forgot.
I was going to ask you if you thought it was very difficult, because you've told me you've beaten it like several times.
I've beaten it like 15 times.
Does it have different levels of difficulty?
Yeah.
I thought
so. And they're hard.
Can you beat it on the hardest difficulty?
No, because I don't even know what's going on. Like, there's a bunch of bats, I think, and there's a bunch of, like, I don't even know what's going on in the harder difficulties. And Adventure 2, I have no idea. There's, like, bats and more of those monster guys, and there's, like, they're really hard.
Atari 2600 is one of the few old school, major old school consoles. Obviously, there's all kinds of stuff I don't have. I don't have a 3DO. I mean, there's things I don't have. I don't have a Jaguar.
You do have a 2600, but...
Well, it doesn't work. I'm just saying that that's the thing. I bought at a yard sale at one point, and anyway, but I didn't grow up with that system. I don't. Yeah. So I'm just saying I didn't have one, and so we don't have that cartridge. So you didn't play it that way. So how did you play it?
I played it on the Atari Flashback 9. It is, I think, my only console I actually have.
What do you mean?
Or at least like.
That you bought, or that somebody bought for you?
Yeah,
or?
someone. I got it for Christmas.
You got handhelds and stuff.
Yeah,
you bought a 3DS with your own money.
Yeah, but the only actual console that hooks up to a TV.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. And there's a lot of stuff on that.
Yeah. And then they made Atari Flashback X, and it's got a bunch of stuff, and it's super tiny.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Are you wanting to get that at some point, or are you kind of good with the one you've got?
I think I'm kind of good with the one I've got.
Now, I forget, does it have, the paddles and stuff, or is it just joysticks?
It's just joysticks.
Can you get paddles for
it?
Okay, because I always, have you ever played racing games on the Atari with the paddles?
Mm-mm.
Because that's fun. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
They look like hockey pucks, and you turn them?
Yeah. Those things, yeah.
Alright, Jason.
Okay.
I wonder if I think there's a chance that you could get real close to 100%ing mine. To put it in video game terms. Alright, what do you think is next on my list, Jason?
Knights?
Knights is definitely on my list, and probably would have been in the top 3 had I been ranking.
Yeah.
Knights Into Dreams, one of the major titles on the Sega Saturn. Not a launch title, but if memory serves, pretty early in the American release for Saturn. It was one of the most popular games on that system. It was made by Sonic Team. It was kind of the, weird way, the stand-in for a Sonic title. We didn't get a major Sonic release on the Saturn, which a lot of people attribute is one of the main reasons that system wasn't successful here. There was a 3D Sonic game that they were working on that they ended up having to stop mid-development. Do you know about that?
Yeah, that was what they turned Sonic Adventure into.
That's right.
But yeah, they actually ported Sonic 3D Blast to the Saturn.
Yeah.
And then there was Sonic Jam, which was a collection of
And one of my only regrets about things I've sold from my collection, I used to have it, and it's over $100 now if you ever try to get your hands on it. And the only reason I got rid of it is I didn't think of myself as a video game collector, so I was like, well, I already have various ways to play the original 4 Genesis Sonic titles.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like I needed that, and so I went ahead and sold it. But Sonic Jam was really cool because it had this kind of overworld that you could run around in, and it was early 3D Sonic, and it gives you kind of a glimpse of what Sonic Adventure, like you said, would turn into. It's got a cool art gallery and things. There's not a lot of extra stuff besides playing those games to do, but I liked the overall package of it, and I wish I'd hung on to it.
Yeah.
I miss Sonic Jam. But yeah, Sonic 3D Blast was not a true 3D game.
Yeah, and
it was isometric.
And then Sonic the Fighters was going to be on Saturn, and then they didn't do that.
It was not ported to a console until we got the Gems collection on GameCube and PS2.
And then there was Sonic R.
Yes. Also not a true Sonic game. It was a racer. It was a very weird racer. A lot of people don't like it. I have nostalgia for that game. I think it's hilarious. It's fun to go back to. It's fun in exactly the same way Sonic the Fighters was. Like, it's not good, but it's entertaining.
And one of the unlockable fighters is this creepy Tails doll, and it's hilarious.
But yeah, Sonic R, the reason to play that is the crazy soundtrack.
Yeah.
That 90s dance music. Gotta keep the dream alive! So anyway, but let's talk about Knights, shall we? Because that's where we started this whole Sonic on Saturn discussion. So Knights blew me away when I first got it. It came out around the same time as Mario 64, and I had to kind of pick between them. And I can't remember, if memory serves, I bought my Saturn and I got Knights first, and then a little bit later I managed to get a 64 and I got Mario 64. But I think I don't know if I'm remembering this right. It's been a long time, obviously. This is 96, so like 25 years ago. But I think I got Knights first. And anyway, I saw those as almost like companion piece things. You know, you had the sort of pseudo 3D game on Saturn, and then you had the totally 3D game on 64. And the thing that Knights had going for it is that it was a character that flew, and it tried to create the sense that you get when you can fly in dreams. And, you know, Knights into Dreams, the whole idea is there's a couple of kids, you play as each of them.
Elliot and someone.
Elliot and, Claire.
Claire.
No, Claris. 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 Claris.
Oh.
That was her name. And you can so you go back and forth between them. You have 3 levels, and then and then your final level, your boss level for each of them, and or your actually your final boss, because there's actually a boss at the end of each level. And Knights is this kind of like genderless character that if you're a boy or a girl and you go into this dreamscape, you become Knights, and it lets you kind of fulfill your dreams. And I did a review of the comics not too long ago where I talked about all the like the story and the ideas of Knights. So if you want to hear more about that, you can go watch that video. I won't talk about that here, but it was just such an innovative engine. It was like nothing we'd ever seen really before or since. It's a very arcade style, but oddly there was no arcade version of Knights. You would have thought that, at least in Japan, they would have put out an arcade version of Knights. Yeah. And I always wondered what the control scheme would look like for that. Is it a wheel? Is it a joystick? Like what is it? But it's an absolutely beautiful game. It still holds up really well. There's a remaster that was put out, I want to say, for PS3, and then you can get it on PS Plus. Is it
PS4?
Is it Plus?
I think.
That the like cloud gaming service that they have there, which also includes Christmas Nights, which was this kind of just revamped couple of levels in a Christmas theme, but it's fun to go back to and play.
And you can play as Sonic.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. I imagine that maybe one of the reasons that Knights didn't get an arcade version is because it takes a little bit of time to figure out how it works and what you're supposed to do, right? Yeah. It's not the quickest learning curve in the world. When I first played it, I was like, what is happening? What's confusing to people, it's actually ultimately really simple once you know what you're doing. But what's confusing about it is if you watch somebody else play it, it looks like they're controlling the 2D and 3D space, where what it really is essentially is a flying 2D platformer. The only reason that it feels like a 3D game is because, A, when you're flying, you actually are seeing the foreground and background moving. So, like, the actual space is not just in 2 dimensions, but you're only controlling 2 dimensions. But also, if you lose Knights and you turn back into one of the kids, then you can actually walk around in 3-dimensional space. So it's a 3D game, in at least graphically, right? But it turns out that the thing's actually on rails. So when you're sort of like, a rail shooter, right? So the only difference is you actually are controlling a plane, you're just not controlling the whole plane. So when you move forward, it moves you front and back and like pushes you in a certain direction in the course. And when you do, and then it's weirdly sort of like a racing game. Like, it's not a racing game, but what I mean is there's laps, right, in a level, but they change each time you go around. And so the whole level, it's one level, but then when you get to a new section, it takes you to a different place in that level, and you have no control over that. Just the left and right, and it's I think it's wonderfully challenging. It's a difficult thing to describe without looking at it, but basically you're going for speed, you're going for your points, getting by killing enemies and by picking up your spheres and things, and then there is a module thing that you have to destroy on each lap in order to then proceed into the next one, and then there's a boss at the end, and it gives you a grade, and if you don't do better than a C, you can't progress to the next level. So it's not just a matter of getting through it; it's a matter of getting through it well. And it's one of those things that's kind of easy to learn but difficult to master. And you've played Knights a little bit.
Yeah,
Have you kind of figured it out by now, or?
I mean, I forgot.
It's been a little while.
Yeah, but it's kind of easy. Sometimes it's like I have no idea what I'm doing, so.
We'll have to play it some more. Knights also came with the Saturn's first analog stick. And I guess only analog stick. It's a big circular controller. I play with it all the time, and I've had it again for like 25 years, and it's not crapped out on me. And I've had other, as you know, Saturn controllers that have stopped working.
You've had like 2 or 3.
More than that. Some of those first parties were really bad. There were a couple of different designs of Saturn controllers, and one was more durable than the other. There's one that's like a glossy hard plastic that was terrible. And the main Saturn controller is basically just a 6-button Genesis controller with this kind of weirder, like angular kind of look. What's the matter?
Nothing.
You're having a hard time getting comfortable.
Yeah.
Are you good now?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So it was the first thing I ever played with an analog stick, and that was just as the 64 was coming out. Like I said, I think I had it first. But anyway, I digress. That's Knights. I love it. It's one of my favorite games. It would be in the top 3, probably.
Okay.
Jayson, I need my phone.
Oh.
Can you...
I'll go grab it.
No, okay, good. Good.
Okay.
Thanks. We had to plug it in for a minute. Okay, so... Jayson, the next thing I'm going to guess for you is Minecraft.
Okay, so that...
Because you and Freddie have been playing ridiculous amounts of Minecraft.
Yes. I didn't... I don't know. That wasn't really a top 10 for me.
Wow. I can't wait to see what else is actually on your list that I haven't called yet.
Yeah.
So was it a runner-up, or did you just not even think of it?
It was a runner-up. I thought of it, but yeah.
So you guys got on that bandwagon kind of late. Because Minecraft's been really popular with kids for a long time, but I bought it for you years ago, and you seem to not be able to, figure out what you're supposed to do.
I didn't know what was even going on, and then I got a tablet, and I was able to look things up, and I looked up. I didn't even know you could craft things when I first got Minecraft.
That was kind of the point, right?
Yeah.
And I couldn't help much because I'd never played it either, and it's not really my kind of game, and I wasn't totally sure what I was looking at.
Yeah.
And you were young enough that it was just a little bit too complicated for you.
Yeah.
So, what is one that's on your list?
Okay, we'll just go Dr. Mario.
Oh. I wouldn't have even thought of that.
Yeah.
I didn't think you'd have a puzzler on your list.
Yeah, Dr. Mario is my favorite puzzle game.
Okay.
And I don't know, like...
How much Dr. Mario have you played?
I've played it a lot.
I thought you were picking stuff.
No, I played it a lot.
I've never seen you play Dr. Mario. Except for, like, the couple times we played it together.
I mean, I've played it with Mom. I've played it I've played it a lot, like on my DS.
Oh, have
like,
you? I just didn't know. Okay. Well, what do you like about Dr. Mario, Jayson?
There's pills, and it's a really fun puzzler, where you, like, drop pills on other pills, and the colors, like, match up, and, it's a little bit like Dr. Mario's Bean Machine. Mean Bean Machine.
Robotics Bean Machine.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like it more than Tetris?
Yeah.
How come?
Tetris is hard.
You think Tetris is harder than Dr. Mario?
Yeah.
See, I think Dr. Mario is harder than Tetris, honestly.
Tetris is harder than Dr. Mario, I think.
I don't like to play either with your mom. Because she's really, really good at both of them.
Yeah.
And I just get killed.
I mean, I play with her. I play those games with her a little bit, but she always beats me. Because...
Do you like to play the original NES version, or do you play one of the later ones? Because I got it probably 4 or 5 different ways.
I play the NES version and I play the Game Boy Advance version.
Have you played it? Have you played the Wii version? Because I think the Dr. Mario Online
RX
or what it was called, is the best version of that game.
Yeah, and they made a Tetris version of that too.
I've got that too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And Dr. Mario was also on Game Boy, and it was very weird.
Oh, was it? What was weird about it?
Well, they had to do like patterns instead of colors.
Oh, of course.
And the
I never thought
the actual guys looked like really weird because they weren't colored. They had that same pattern of the pills on them, and
so was it
really
like a plaid thing? It was like, these are polka dotted.
Yeah.
These are striped.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because you'd have, what is it, like 3 different colors?
Yeah, there's...
So you couldn't just make it black and white. But you could make it, like, filled in, not filled that in, and just lined. Like...
Yeah.
That's not what they did?
No.
Weird.
Weird, that's the yellow guy.
That's his name?
Yeah, that's his name.
His
name is Weird.
I didn't know that. I learned something every time I talk to you about video games. Okay, Jayson, what do you think might be next on my list? You are 2 for 2, sir.
Wave Race 64.
Wave Race did not make my list.
What?
I just didn't have enough space for more driving things. But I do love Wave Race. And now I must say, you almost had it.
Yeah. Urgh.
Talk about Wave Race a minute.
Okay, so you drive on water.
It's
and
jet skis.
It is jet skis, and it's not a racer.
It is a racer.
Wait, really?
It's got a racing component, and it's also got a stunt component.
Wave race.
And you can... Yeah, there's this game. It's great. The only thing that's weird about it is it has race in the title and there's no racing in it. I don't understand that. No, Wave Race does have racing. It also has a stunt setting, and
you can do stunts.
And you can do stunts when you're racing. Yeah, you can mix them too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or I should say, there is a stunt mode, and that was my favorite thing to play in the day, where I would try to get really good at the stunts and keep increasing my score. And I have a hard time going back and, I mean, I don't think I've beat a high score in years, because when I was, 12 or 13, I got really good at that game and I just killed it, and I cannot beat my scores from, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, that game is great. It's still really playable. It still looks great. The water effects in that from, 97, 98, are incredible. It's spectacular. That is a series that I wish would come back. The Wave Race sequel that they put on the GameCube was really good. I've not messed around with that enough. I should. It's super cheap if you ever get your hands on it. I think I bought it for like $4 or $5, and it's really good.
And Wave Race 64 was not the original Wave Race.
No, we discovered that, and we bought that. There's a Wave Race on the Game Boy.
That was the original.
But anyway,
it's really hard to play.
So I guess since you didn't nail a driving game, I'll give you a driving game, and this may be a thing that you did write down, but let's find out.
Okay.
I said Crazy Taxi.
Yes.
Did you get Crazy Taxi? Okay, so you're like 3 for 4 right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I did say Crazy Taxi. Yeah, talk about Crazy Taxi.
Yeah. Well, I mean, did you guess that I put Crazy Taxi down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is it
I
on
guessed
your
it.
list? It's on your list?
It's on my
okay,
list.
I did not guess that. Well, let's just talk about Crazy Taxi.
Okay.
So I got Crazy Taxi first on Dreamcast. It was ported in lots of different places later. At the same time it was on Dreamcast, it was also on, or maybe not same time, it was also on PS2. And I want to say Crazy Taxi 2 made it on both platforms also, or was it PS1? I think it was PS2.
I don't know about Race 2.
I
You just
forget
talked
now.
about that in the car, and I was just like, wait, there's a Wave Race 2?
You mean Crazy Taxi?
Or Crazy Taxi 2?
Yeah, there's Crazy Taxi 2 where you can jump your car. There's a jump button for your car. Yeah, there's a challenge course where you have to jump your car up onto a bridge. Like, there's like a bridge over. You have to jump it up onto it. Yeah, it's crazy.
There's a challenge mode?
There's challenge mode in the first one. Yeah, the Crazy Box.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, go back and play the Crazy Box. It's fun. It's very challenging. Anyway, talk a little bit about Crazy Taxi. What do you do in Crazy Taxi?
So you pick up drivers that
Well, you are
say,
a driver. You pick up
yeah,
passengers.
You pick up passengers and they're like, I want to go to Pizza Hut. And you get them to Pizza Hut and say really mean things to them. And then you get to this person and he's like, I want to go to the train station. So you go to the train station and you say really nice things about him. And then
drive.
then he's just like, and then you start bumping into everyone and he's like, wow, be careful. And then
Shut up and move your butt.
yeah, and you
Yeah.
say really mean things to him, and then you get out, and he's just like, that was really bad.
And he pays you depending on how fast you got there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Crazy Taxi was really inventive. It is not a racing game and doesn't have race in the title. And it is just about getting people from place to place. And it's oddly open world, right? There's a couple of different modes in the Dreamcast version where there's the original arcade, and then there's a Dreamcast mode that has an even bigger city than the arcade did. I still like playing arcade more, I think, but it's really cool that they went above and beyond and built even a larger city for that.
It's time to get crazy.
Yeah, it's just a really like fun, energetic game. I just love the atmosphere and the
It's
feel
like
of that.
one of the only Dreamcast games I actually play. Because it's one of the only ones that, like, I don't know. Like, I play Sonic Adventure.
Yeah.
And sometimes, although I don't know, like, how to do anything.
No, it's one of the big reasons I have a Dreamcast, certainly.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I won't say too much. There may be another thing on my list. But
Oh, wait. Oh, man. I didn't even think about that.
Yes. But anyway,
Did you?
it obviously doesn't take itself too seriously. It's not a taxi simulator. It's very arcadey and cartoony, so it's not concerned about damage and stuff. In fact, you get money by doing certain damage, and I think, okay, it's been a while. Now I'm trying to remember if you actually get money for running into things or if you lose money for running into things. But I actually think there's some things that you can hit that actually give you money. Like, it encourages you to do some of that, if memory serves. It's most fun to go back and play either in an arcade, if you just happen to be able to find an arcade machine. There's an arcade out here that's got one. Or on the Dreamcast, because it has still all of the old licenses, because newer versions, when it's re-released, don't have all licenses, so you won't necessarily have Pizza Hut or KFC or Radio Shack, which is barely even a thing anymore. So there were a lot of things in that game that were made up, and there were a lot of like real life things, which was really cool. But it also doesn't always have the Offspring soundtrack, which the original did, and was one of the big things that I loved about it. And that game got me into the Offspring, which is one of my favorite bands. But anyway, okay, so I'm gonna guess.
And you can also play the original Crazy Taxi version on your phone or tablet now.
Is it the original?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't change anything?
Mm-mm.
So it's got the Offspring soundtrack?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I wonder how they were able to do that. Because every time I've seen it ported, it's changed all that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Jayson. Let's see if I can redeem myself a little bit here. The only thing I've guessed of yours so far is adventure. Mario 64.
Yep. That's
Surely.
number one.
Surely that's
number one.
top of the list. Yeah. All right. Talk about Mario 64.
So this.
You play this all the time.
Yeah. So this is the first 64 game, and it was one of the first 3D platformers. What's really fun about this game is, there's a bunch of levels, and there's certain missions that you have to do, to get stars. And when you get a certain number of stars, you can unlock doors in Peach's Castle to get new levels, and it's really fun. You start with one level, and then you get like 20. And
I always thought the hub world device for that game was kind of ingenious, that the whole thing takes place in the castle, and you jump into pictures.
Yeah. And you can catch a rabbit named Mips.
So you've played it in a few different places now. Obviously, we have the original on 64, so you've played it with the original controller quite a bit, but you've also played the DS version?
That's probably... So I spent more time on the DS version than I did the 64 version.
Is it because of the extra content?
That, and also it's way easier. And, there's more characters, and, the other thing that, I really like about it is, I almost beat it.
Did you?
And then
Can you just not beat the Bowser?
Yeah, the last level, I got to Bowser, and then the spikes are 3 miles away. And I gotta spin them around and throw them all the way over there.
Yeah, it's hard.
And it's really hard.
But I've never done it on that version.
Yeah.
How many stars did you get?
No.
When you say you almost beat it, do you mean you almost 100%ed it, or you almost just got to
the
technical end of the game?
Yeah, I got to the end of the game. I got 95, I think.
Now, see, I was real back and forth on this because I thought 64 could be there, or Odyssey could be there, or both could be there.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll see. I did not officially guess at Odyssey, so you'll have to tell us later if that's there. I'm gonna assume it's not, but it's not there. Okay, all right. But anyway, what else do you want to say about 64?
It brings a lot of characters. A lot of characters are start in 64. There's Koopa the Quick. There's the King Bomb. He shows up in other things.
Well, that created the aesthetic. I mean, that initial aesthetic for 3D Mario, which in a way has stuck around ever since then, but especially through the 64 era, in exactly the same way that Mario World created the Mario aesthetic for everything they did on that system, like that first Mario Kart. 64 did exactly the same thing. When you get to Mario Kart 64, the aesthetic is Mario 64.
Yeah, and it also made the chain chomp really scary.
That's true.
That's what makes the chain chomp super scary. And my favorite level is Big Busan's. And
that's where some of the most cryptic stuff is, though. It can be difficult the first time out to figure out how to get through all of that.
And I have 100% of that level before.
I bet you were proud. So have you played it much yet on 3D All-Stars?
I started a game on it, but I haven't played it in a couple weeks.
Of course, somewhat notoriously, All-Stars is real slimmed down. The games function, and they're really good, and they're slightly upscaled, but there's not any bells and whistles.
Yeah.
It's in the original aspect ratio, which some people are upset about, wanted it to go widescreen. It's not fully remastered. People have wanted the 64 remastered for a long time. We thought finally we'd get it here, and that's not how that worked out. But it's again slightly upscaled, so
it looks really good.
It looks a little nicer, and you can play it portable, and you can play it portable, larger without a DS and without the 2 or 3DS thumbstick, which I don't like, or even worse, just a D-pad. Because, that came out on the DS, and I can't remember if that was a launch title for the DS or what.
Yeah, that was a launch
Was
title
it?
for the DS, yeah.
But man, trying to play that with a D-pad, that is strange.
Yeah.
How did you do it? Did you do it with the thumbstick, or did you do it with the D-pad when you played on the DS?
So I actually did both.
Oh, did you really?
I think I played with the D-pad more, though. I think. But I don't remember. Well, yeah, I played it with the DS more.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah,
I don't like that thumbstick. The, glidey thumbstick. I have a hard time with that. But, yeah, I don't know. I guess the one I'm probably, most nostalgic for, and the one I like to go back to the most, is just that opening one, with the...
Bomb on Battlefield?
Bomb on Battlefield, yeah. Part of that's just the soundtrack, but I also like the layout of that level a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, I like TikTok Clock too.
Oh yeah, TikTok Clock is awesome.
It's great.
TikTok Clock, I 100%ed in DS.
I haven't played it in a really long time.
TikTok Clock is really easy in DS if you're Luigi because of his game breaking backflip. You can get to really far places, and it's awesome.
Okay, so you've done 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm about to have done 4. Well, and we both had Crazy Taxi.
Yeah.
So this is taking longer than I expected. Let's go ahead and break this up into 2 videos. So why don't you guess one more at me, and we'll talk about that game, and then we'll go ahead and take a recess, and we'll come back with a second part.
Okay. Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. Well.
Because you have other things to do this afternoon.
Yeah, and I can. Maybe, I can guess one of yours, and then you can guess one of mine, and I can guess one of yours, and then it would be half and half.
Well, I just don't know if we're going to have enough time for all that.
Okay.
Because what I'm saying is, we're kind of at time. You need to get back to, your schoolwork and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
So why don't you guess one of mine, and then hopefully we can just maybe go a little bit quicker next time.
Okay, Galaga?
Galaga. Naturally, is on mine. Galaga is my favorite arcade game of all time. It's my favorite game of that era. It's one of the only games of that era that I really, like sitting down and putting a lot of time into. I love Galaga because it's another one of those, easy to learn, difficult to master kinds of things. It's from that era where you have to learn all the patterns. And it's one of those games that is really intimidating when you first start trying to play it. It's difficult to get very far if you haven't played it much and you're not used to the rhythm of it and you're not used to the kind of, angles of shooting. Because it's not just a matter of you get up underneath the bugs and fire. It's like firing as you're moving. You know what I mean? So
There's kind
of angles to consider. And when you get into a rhythm, it's really satisfying when you can shoot, a whole row of bugs at a time. And I've put a lot of hours into it. Every week or two, I sit down and play a few rounds of Galaga. And I have the arcade one-up machine, so I'm able to play it at home now. The way it's intended to be played. I much prefer to play Galaga on an actual arcade machine. It's not so much fun with a controller. Even a fight stick, I've tried that, and it's still not the same. It's really nice to have a console. And what I mean is it's nice to have, an upright system with, a flat thing and looking at it, at that angle. But anyway, I tend to get close to 200,000 now whenever I play. That's about my average. I have done better than that. I've been close to 300,000. I've never rolled a machine. I've never gotten close to 1 million like my dad has. Part of the reason that I like Galaga a lot and that I got into it in the first place is because my dad used to be a tournament Galaga player, and like I said, he's rolled machines, and I'm not in the league that he was in, but he's rusty enough. I think I'm in his league now. I think he and I play about the same at the moment. But if he got back into it, over a week or two, he'd probably be right back where he was, and then I wouldn't be able to touch him again. But so that was kind of a bonding thing with me and my dad, which is a lot of why I got into it. But I love Galaga. I still go back to it all the time.
Yeah.
And you've played a little, but you haven't gotten super great at it yet.
Yeah, I'm not that great at it.
You just gotta practice. You just gotta practice and
practice.
practice.
I keep trying to move and shoot the bugs, but I always don't It's as if it has to be like pixel perfect.
Yeah. So I'm gonna. That was quick. I'll go ahead and ask you one more.
Okay.
How's that? What about Excite Bike?
No.
Is that at least a runner-up?
No.
You didn't even think of it?
Mm-mm.
I thought you loved Excite
No,
Bike.
I like Excite Bike.
You bought the original
I don't-
NES cartridge on your own.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did. Years ago.
We don't have it.
Yeah, we do.
Really?
Oh, I thought we did. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. I thought we did. Or maybe I'm thinking of
Wrecking Crew?
Wrecking Crew.
I bought
Yeah, I
Wrecking
think you
Crew.
were looking for Excite Bike when you got Wrecking Crew. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
I thought I was looking for Wrecking Crew. I don't know.
It's not important. Well, yeah. I mean, you're probably after them both, but it's not important anyway.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
But I thought, I thought that would be on your list.
Yeah.
All right, what is on your list then, Jayson?
Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3.
So Mortal Kombat was on my list. I wasn't sure if you'd pick 2 or 3. Yeah, I figured you'd probably pick 3, but
Yeah, so
I just generically wrote Mortal Kombat.
I mean,
but yeah.
I like 3 because it's quicker than the other games. But it still has like
Do you like
its
the run
own-
button? Do you use the run button?
Mhm. I mean, to win and lose actually. So
The
I
arcade
like-
one-up machine from Mortal Kombat was the one of I was starting to get into those machines, and it was the one of those that Jayson asked for, and we finally got one. And I wasn't sure how often he'd play it. He plays it all the time.
Yeah. So I've got my ups, I got my downs about this game. There's a lot of characters. But the ones that they took out are really weird.
Yeah.
There's no Raiden.
That's-
There's no Johnny Cage.
That's my biggest complaint about
There's
it.
no Baraka. I don't get it. There's Smoke, but he's not human. Like, what the heck? But yeah.
Scorpion doesn't have his mask. Remember
Sub-Zero doesn't
Sub-Zero doesn't have his mask.
Well, that's okay. So there's a lot of secrets, and I really like all the secrets because I know how to unlock all 3 characters, and one of them is Sub-Zero with his mask.
That's right.
And wait, if I'm remembering this right, so the Sub-Zero without his mask is a different person than the Sub-Zero with his mask. Sub-Zero with his mask is
Are they different characters?
yeah, they are.
Okay.
Sub-Zero without or with his mask is becomes Smoke. Not Smoke. Noob Saibot is his name. I think, yeah. That's he becomes Noob Saibot, and if I'm remembering this right, it's been a while.
You'd think if Noob was in enough games, he wouldn't be called Noob anymore.
But anyway, and then there's apparently the oh yeah, so the one without his mask is the guy with his mask from 1,
Oh, okay.
but then he's Noob Saibot in 2, and the guy that's in Classic Sub-Zero in 3 is the Sub-Zero from 2, or something like that. It's very strange. There's 2 Sub-Zeros, and one of them becomes Noob Saibot, and one of them is in 1, but not in 2. I don't
Anyway,
remember.
So what do you like about 3 so much besides? Yeah, I mean, I know secrets are a big part of Mortal Kombat in the first place, or just like combinations that you have to do of buttons to make cool things happen.
The first secret character was in Mortal Kombat 1.
Is that right? Like of video games?
Yeah, in a fighting game.
In a fighting game, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Reptile.
And of course, that
was
created
the first,
fatalities.
Secret character in a fighting game, and it was. You can't even play as him, and he's really hard to get to. I don't know why you would want to do it. You gotta go to a specific stage and go to a specific point of water, and
there's a lot of those.
specific time when the moon is at a specific point. And
on a particular day of the year, at a particular time of day, when there's rain coming out of the sky.
The moon actually has to be in a specific place in the... Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of those secrets I don't totally understand what you want to do. Just besides just to have the bragging rights that you can do them, like that really weird Galaga game that they have. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
You can't even play it. Like the enemies come all the way to the bottom, so they hit your ship on the bottom.
The enemies come.
What is the point of that?
They go like, and they like.
But yeah, figuring out secret stuff in video games was a huge part of the experience when I was a kid, and it's cool that you're getting to kind of live that too, because your generation doesn't have that as much, because there's just no mystery left in the world. Like, everything is online, and of course, you are looking stuff up, and you know, you're not like... You're not always just, you know, discovering things in the game, but it is cool that you're, you know, going back and researching that stuff and finding it, and that's, you know, so much of the fun of it for you, because that's, well, and to be fair, I mean, like, a lot of it wasn't just landing on it when we were kids either. It was, you have to go get a magazine and then look it up and then try it, and then you've got bragging rights where you go to your friends. I bet you don't know that you can do this, and even though we have the internet now and you're using the internet to get that stuff, you probably still have that experience to some degree where it's like, look, Freddy, look at this thing I can do, you know?
Yeah. I bet the first character to be unlocked in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 without a magazine was Ermac. Because he is really easy. You just gotta go 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's what it is. That's the code.
He's been playing a lot of Mortal
Really?
Kombat. You've learned a lot. So, are you doing fatalities yet?
I've done one. Wait, no, I haven't. You've done one. I've
never
never done.
Because you know, fatalities is like one of the big things about Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
And you're so worried about unlocking things, you haven't even really got into the fatalities yet.
Yeah, I haven't.
You're gonna have to do that.
I'm gonna have to.
But how cool is it that there's that much replayability and so much stuff to do in a game of that age that's just a fighting game?
Yeah. I like to play as Reptile, Melina, who is an unlockable character, Sonya, Jade, and Scorpion.
It's like half the roster.
5. No. Those are 5 characters. Those are my top 5.
Okay, it's like a third of the roster. That's like a lot.
Yeah. Those are my top 5.
But those are your Those are your characters.
Melina is probably my favorite.
That's cool. I think I still prefer to play 2, but I've been playing a lot more 3 because that's what you like. So.
That's what I like to play. Yeah.
Well, anyway, we're going to go ahead and call it here for now and come back with a second video for you next week. So look forward to that, and we will count down the rest. We're at about the halfway point. We'll count down the rest of our favorites. We'll also have some runners-up for you as well. So far, you are beating me just as I suspected that you would in guessing at my list, and I'm excited to see if I can nail at least 1 or 2 more
yeah.
of yours. Everybody, thanks a lot for watching. We sure appreciate it. I was Captain Logan.
And I was Jayson.
And we were father
and son.
See you next time, guys.